Hello and welcome back to another great episode of hashtag Screw the W2. And if my guest looks and or sounds a little familiar, you may have heard her or seen her on my separate podcast, the Wealth and Freedom Nexus. She is actually known as the Blockchain Babe. I think self-promoted by the real estate guys, but she was on podcast episodes number 9 and 46, where we talked more in depth on blockchain, cryptocurrency, and all the wonderful, fun chaos we've seen in the last 2 years. But in this case, we're actually going to be talking about when Courtney left her W-2 space. So, Courtney, welcome back to the well, first time for this show, third time in total, I guess.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Thank you for having me. When you reached out to invite me, I was so excited because first of all, screw the W-2. Like that is the best freaking name for a podcast ever. So just awesome. Genius.
Yeah, I got a couple of messages out because I started with a hashtag, and it's like, well, can you trademark a hashtag or can you trademark I don't know, that's item number 476 on my to-do list, so I'll get to it eventually.
Oh my gosh. I have an action list that is ridiculous. Really.
Yeah, it's like, woohoo, I got one thing done. And there's 5 more I just added. Okay. So, but anyways, Courtney, we've spoken a little bit offline and, texted back and forth, obviously met the first time 2 years ago in Belize, but can you, first take us back to, what was your last W-2 job? What was it? What was like an average day for you?
Gosh. Well, I don't know that I could ever figure out what I wanted to be when I grew up. So I've done a little bit of everything. And,
Okay.
I feel like I have all the licenses. My very last actual job, my actual W-2 was I was a nurse. And so
Oh,
a lot of
really?
people, yeah, a lot of people don't know that about me.
I
So
did not know that. No.
no, and it's kind of funny how that transitioned. I was in the Navy, and when I got out of the Navy, which that was even a struggle because I really enjoyed my time. But I spent all of 2003 in the Persian Gulf, away from my kids, and I was a single mom, and that was hard.
Oh, wow.
But I really loved my job, and so I kind of did this back and forth, like, what do I do? Do I stay in? Do I get out? But being away from your kids for that length of a time period is really tough. And especially being a single mom. So I finally decided to get out and use my GI Bill to go back to school and got my nursing license.
Okay,
So
cool.
and actually I was selling real estate before that. So I
Okay.
got my real
Let's see.
estate
Real estate,
license.
Navy, nurse. What else we got there?
Yes, yes. So, okay, I'm sorry. I have to sit there and think about this. God, when you get as old as me and you have to sit there and be like, okay, wait a minute, what did that timeline look like? So I got into real estate and I actually really loved it. It was really great. But I was working all the time and I ended up opening my own brokerage. I partnered with a broker. We had a
Okay.
brokerage and I loved selling real estate. It was just so much satisfaction in helping people find their homes. And I just love to look at homes, but I didn't scale it right. I didn't hire people and build a team the right way. And so that was probably my first, I guess, test in out in the space of being self-employed.
Okay.
Which kind of taught me the importance of a team, but we'll kind of circle back and tie all this together. So my husband finally got to the point, he was like, look, you work all the time, our kids are living in the car watching cartoons and you've got to do something different. We can't do this anymore. That's when I went back to school and got my nursing license. And
Okay.
so I'm working at a place in Midland called Manor Park, and I was doing rehab and wound care was kind of my specialty. So I worked in a
Oh, okay.
long-term care facility, really enjoyed it. And then kind of moved over into the admin side where I was helping with admission. So I really learned all of it, but God, I worked all the time. And then when nurses would call in, there were some times I was pulling, 16, 18-hour shifts. And
Jeez.
I mean, there are just times, I had 2 kids in high school. I had 2 younger kids. My kids right now are 28, 26, 16, and 14. So there's this big
Okay.
gap. So I feel like I missed so much of, my older kids' high school times. And then even my younger kids, going through, when I look back on all of that time working as a nurse, it's kind of a blur because there were so many times I was pulling all these extra shifts and just working all the time. And it was like, okay, we've got to make a shift. I was working all the time also as a realtor, but now I'm working as a nurse and it's not it's not making any difference. Like I felt like I was just a slave to my job. I was working to create this paycheck. And we hope that we are making extra money so we have more time with our families. And really, I was just working to work more because when they ask you,
Yeah.
hey, I need you to do this or I need you to do that, you feel obligated. And I really
Mhm.
did enjoy my job, but man, you are working to build somebody else's
Yeah.
retirement accounts and everything else. I mean, you're working to build somebody else's business. And I think, that first opportunity for me to really take a step back and change that, I lost my dad about 10 years ago,
Oh,
and
wow.
he left me his oil and gas company. And,
Okay.
I told my husband, I said, I'm not going to work, I'm going to really focus on running this company. And I really, I've always wanted to be like the room mom and the PTA mom and to be able to take my kids to school and pick them up and go have lunch with them and, be involved in all the things they were involved in and had going on. And so I was able to really, take that on, and I was doing a lot of volunteer work, which I enjoyed. But we've gone through that season as well. So that is kind of how I went from that W2 and got into working for myself. It was kind of forced on me. But
Okay.
I've always had an entrepreneurial mindset. I've tried starting a couple of different businesses. The real estate business was really great. Like I said, I just didn't scale it right. So there was a lot of lessons that I learned along the way through some of these other job opportunities and other jobs that I held, and especially in the Navy, I was really good at that. I ran my shop there, really learned how to lead people and how to there's not anything I would ever ask somebody to do that I wouldn't do myself. And I used to get in there, and even though I was the boss, I would get in there and get my hands dirty and work with my guys and make sure that we had everything going and that morale was high. And so I think, my path went the way that it was because I wasn't quite ready to take on all the things that I needed now,
Mhm.
am now. I learned so many different little nuggets from each of those different jobs that brought forth. And I think it really helped me with the success that I am going through now.
Gotcha. Well, I know it's kind of funny you mentioned before too, when, I've been there too, where you're stuck in a W-2 and you're working harder. And then the, I don't know, self-fulfilling prophecy, the downside of the W-2, it's like, oh, I made some more money. Oh, now I'm in a higher tax bracket. Oh, now I'm outside the
Yep.
SALT deductions for what I can deduct of my state taxes to federal. So now I'm paying more. And oh, now I'm not eligible for a Roth IRA. Oh, here's the alternative minimum tax. It's like you almost get punished for being more successful.
Yes. You do 100% you do. And I can sit here and rattle off some other ways that are tax codes punish employees and
Yep.
reward business owners. I mean, that is really the theme.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, we're just not taught that. I can remember like a year ago listening to Brad Summer the first time. He was like, "Yeah, I remember the first year the first time I had to pay $1 million or whatever it was." But he was like, "Okay,
Jeez.
I'm going to get it to 2 million or whatever it was." Like he was kind of using that as bragging rights, like, "Hey, I'm paying $1 million in taxes," because he just didn't realize that there was another way to do things where you're not
Yeah.
forking all that money over to the
Yeah.
government,
Yeah. Yeah, you hear $1 million,
crazy.
Tom Wheelwright would probably say, why that much? And Bernie Sanders probably going to say, well, that's it. And everywhere in between.
That's not enough. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
So,
Absolutely. And so, yeah, this freaking rat race of working and hoping that you're stashing enough money and, hoping that you have enough money to hopefully retire on when you're
yeah.
65. I mean, it's just it's this vicious cycle of trying to be better and accomplish more. And are you working hard enough to literally build somebody else's wealth and then hope that you
Yeah.
have enough to retire on? It's such BS.
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, everyone's story is a little bit different, but I think back to let's see, it was late 2015, kind of had the rug pulled out from me. I mean, I work for an employee-owned company, so the big thing was like, hey, you work harder, well, you got more shares in the company, and they grew, and there was profit sharing, et cetera, et cetera. Well, then
Yeah.
when they decide to sell to a private equity company where all they care about is pinching pennies, my compensation got cut in half from 2015 to 2016. And oh, by the way, you don't have an ESOP anymore, but hey, here's a 401k with all these wonderful mutual funds you can invest in instead.
But hey, if the market downturns, there goes all your savings. But don't worry
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah, that's a whole nother topic I could go on, but I'll
Yeah.
be here for another hour or so. But no, Courtney, taking us back, you kind of mentioned your last W-2 job per se was working at a nurse, and then obviously, you felt the pains and the struggles, and then you're with your dad passing, which I'm sorry to hear that. And obviously with his business that you kind of took over. Do you remember back, one, how long did it take you to fully escape the W-2 rat race? And then second, do you remember, November 2nd, 2010 was my last day or anything like that?
Yeah. So I mean, I can't tell you the day, but it was, October of 2012.
Okay.
And that was the time where it was like, okay, I am not going back. My husband actually still has a W-2 job to this day. And it's so funny because he really loves his job. He is a public servant. He loves that. And it was funny. I told him the other day, the lottery was like $1 billion. And I said, I mean, we don't buy lottery tickets, but I was like, if
Right.
we won the lottery, are you gonna quit your job? And he was like, no, Courtney, I'm not. And
Yeah.
so I've always tried to go, okay, what is it going to take to get him to dip out of this and be done? And
Yeah.
he's in it. So I think for a few more years at least.
All
But
right.
yeah,
Well,
October. I mean, it's been, gosh, we're going on about 11 years now.
wow. Yeah,
Almost 11 years.
yeah, wow. Well, and good for your husband too. I mean, I know the old, it's kind of cliche, but find something you love and you'll never work a day in your life. And
Yeah,
there are a lot of people that love what they do. It's like, hey, hats off to you. But there's many of us that, it's a grind. We got to get out. We want to do
absolutely.
something different. So, but
Well, I think most people don't find something that they're truly happy doing. I
yeah.
think a lot of people are forced into things because they feel like they've got to, meet, they're trying to keep up with the Joneses or trying to keep up with a certain
Yeah.
lifestyle or, whatever. And they're going to do whatever it takes to make sure that they're, keeping up with this, you know, thought of what success and everything
Yeah.
else is to the world.
Yeah. Oh, we can't just have a house. We need to have two Mercedes and a four-stall garage and six
Right.
beds and four bath now, and just on and on and on.
Right. 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 Yep. Everybody's idea of wealth is different, isn't it?
Exactly. Now, thinking back, Courtney, I know, like you said, you're going on, 11 years, since you basically said screw the W-2. But looking back, is there anything you maybe do miss about whether it's being a nurse or just having that, steady paycheck per se?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely kind of that camaraderie of, your coworkers and, things that I would say probably more on the social side of things over I take that back. So, I was going to say the social things and, having people I really enjoyed working with, but, I really loved my patients. I took such good care of my patients. They were more important to me than anything. And, whenever I would have, a new person and some of them were repeat customers because they'd, had multiple surgeries or whatever, and they
Sure.
would request me, they would request that I would come and take their staples out or come and, dispense their medicine. But I always took it. It was so much more than just a job. I took the
Sure.
time to get to know my patients and get to know their families and chat with them and, lunch times and some of the war veterans and people that we had. I love chatting with older people. They're
Sure.
just this vast wealth of knowledge and their life experiences are so
Yeah.
incredible. So I really took pride in my job. So I miss sometimes I miss that, but now I still have that. My investors, I guess, are kind of like my patients and I
Sure.
take good care of them. And so I do miss sometimes oh, I don't know, just that being involved with the group and having, those, I don't know, I don't even know what the right word for it is. Gosh,
Yeah, different
but,
network
but
or work, yeah,
so
work
there's,
family.
yeah, kind of your work family, but I don't miss it enough to where I'm like, I wish I could have, I'm going back to that now.
Yeah.
Good. I am out. So, I miss some of the people that, I used to chat with and I missed some of the activities that we used to do, but I've replaced those with other activities that are, that I enjoy just as much, if not more.
Sure. No,
So
makes sense.
maybe the relationships.
Yeah, there we go. I did kind of have to chuckle when you said repeat customers and a little different than medical versus investors. I just thinking like, old man Jones is like, well, gee, I really like Nurse Courtney. Well, I got one hip replaced. What the hell? I'll get the other one replaced. I'll just
Just
head
knock
back.
out this one
Yeah.
too.
And as long as they're there, can we do this knee? And, 2-for-1 special.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
uh Going on that, trying to go off of hip and knee surgeries now, but with that being said, coming up on 11 years since you left that career behind, what's been maybe the best part of your journey on the entrepreneurial side, or not being handcuffed to a W-2 per se?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I would say, I think my favorite thing, first of all, in all of this is going to networking events and meeting people. I mean, just having the freedom to do that. I just went to the best ever conference 2 weeks ago in Salt Lake City. I met and every one of these things that I go to, I meet the most amazing people. And
Yeah.
it's so rewarding, and just I love chatting with people, hearing about what they're doing. So that freedom to be able to go where I want to go when I want to go there. And this coming weekend we have got I've got a conference coming up. I'm only going to make one day because my son has got a baseball tournament down in College Station. So if it was my job, I don't know that I'd be able to take that off, but I have the flexibility to go during the time that I can. And then I get to skip out on the rest of that and go and watch my kid play baseball, which is amazing. So, wealth to me is not only having the money to do what you want to do, but having the time to do what you want to do, and spend it with the people you want to spend. Time is so precious and it's so
Exactly.
limited.
Yeah, no, and I've that's really hit hard for me too, where I look at it, it's like, neither one of us knows our end date, but there is an end date out there, and we can't just,
Yeah.
well, I'm gonna, here's the new AI chatbot, or here's $1 million. I'm gonna buy myself 6 extra months in
Right.
retirement or anything. There's just a
Right.
finite end date there.
Right.
But I can always set up additional passive streams of income. I can always buy more real estate. The way the Fed's going, there's probably always going to be US dollars out there. So I can always get
Yes.
more dollars. I can't get more time. And I think that's probably the
Yes.
best thing of having that freedom, like you said, time freedom.
Yes, absolutely. 100%.
Yeah. With that, Courtney, and just for everyone's story is a little bit different as far as the entrepreneurial journey. I think all of us have some story to share of, I hated this job, I hated this boss, or I currently hate this job or hate this boss. But fill in the blankets, insurance, the pension, the steady paycheck, whatever, that someone just feels stuck where they're at, and they just can't uh take that leap of faith, if you will, to become an entrepreneur, self-employed business owner, whatever. For those, that are feeling stuck in their job, what type of, or what kind of advice or words of encouragement would you give them?
No, I would say that I completely understand that. It's really scary. Even when I was getting out of the Navy, I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? How, there's just a mindset. There's, I guess, some kind of level of a safety net that a W-2 job provides us. It's
Yeah.
actually a kind of a false safety net, even on that. I would just say, go out and start, take a look at what you have. And leveraging assets was really kind of that red pill. When I learned about syndication and then
Mhm.
leveraging assets, that was really my red pill. Like, holy cow, wow, there is this whole other world out there and way of doing things, utilizing, Bethany LaFlamme says, OPE, which is other people's everything,
Oh,
other people's
nice.
knowledge, other people's money, other people's resources, other people's everything. I mean, there are ways to tap into other people's everything to make things happen. And it's just really about, tapping in getting educated and getting involved in groups with people like you and your podcast and how they're doing this so that you can start making that happen. And, one of the things that I'm working on now is, I want 25 different streams of income. I think they say the standard millionaires got like somewhere
Uh,
from 7 to 12 streams of
yeah, I think
income.
so. Well, and it kind of depends on how they count it, because like
Right.
I, for instance, count each one of my rentals as separate streams of income, but some people count that,
Sure.
oh, that's my real estate income. That's like one stream. So, I mean, you can kind of split hairs of how you want to count it, I guess.
Sure. Sure. I guess that's true. So I guess it really just depends on how you look at that. And so one of the things that I learned really fast when we were very dependent on oil and gas income was that the price of a barrel of oil really had a big hand in my lifestyle,
Yeah.
which I didn't realize until it dropped significantly. And then it was like, whoa,
Yeah.
holy cow, hang on a second, time out, which is what kind of led me into learning about other investment options and opportunities, which is what led me to the real estate guys. And I learned about syndication. And so, I've now spent this last couple of years, putting deals together, raising money and, providing, creating new streams of income. And so I did not want to be dependent upon oil and gas like I was W2 because it almost kind of felt like that. I've just now created that. So now I've really spent a lot of time this last couple of years diversifying into a lot of different assets so that, maybe the real estate cycle is doing really great and we're high right there, but maybe oil and gas is low or, whatever those things look like. But if I've got different streams of income coming in from all these different areas, even if oil and gas is low, well, that's okay because, real estate's over here rocking it, or maybe precious metals is doing something, or storage is doing, you just, however that's working. So if one of those resources is low on the totem pole of time, I'm good because I'm being covered by these other assets that are cash flowing over here.
Exactly. So, yeah, it's what I call the true diversification versus most people think of diversification because I have Exxon stock, Microsoft stock, Snapchat. Yeah. It's like, well, you're diversified amongst paper assets, but there's other assets out there.
Yeah. Absolutely. So yes, having 50 different stocks does not give you diversification. You might have a diversified stock portfolio, but you are in one asset class.
Exactly.
And I don't even know that I would consider that an asset class.
Yeah.
I would consider that like Las Vegas, that's like a blackjack table.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially with all we're seeing with Silicon Valley Bank and all the bank stocks at the time of this recording. But that's again another topic.
Another can of worms.
Exactly.
Yes.
So.
Yes.
Well, as we close this out, Courtney, and again, I want to thank you for taking the time to come out and share your story with my listeners. And, I've talked to you the last 2 years and I never knew you're a nurse. So I learned something new every day. But for anyone out there, if they're interested in maybe investing alongside you, learning what projects you have, or are there any new projects that are coming out for 2023 that you want to share?
Yeah, I have CourtneyMoeller.com where you can go to my website. I mean, I am involved in, carbon capture and blockchain and Bitcoin mining and, just a handful of everything. And we are about to start working on a short-term rental fund and getting into some short-term Airbnbs and that sort of thing in different markets in the United States and throughout the Caribbean. So I'm very excited about that. And yep, so that is not on the site yet because we're still in the beginning of that. But carbon capture is another really big one. You can go to carboncapturereport.net and download a report on that. The tax benefits and, cash flow are amazing. And yeah, so no, I keep everything on my website. I'm working on restructuring that because I've been told it's overwhelming. There's too much information on it. So
yeah,
I guess
I'm in the same boat.
I'm down what I'm doing.
Yeah, I'm on the same boat. I'm constantly updating stuff and finally got to the point and knock on wood, so far it's working pretty good. I finally just put a little search bar. So if you want to search Bitcoin, Courtney, oil and gas, whatever, then it'll just take you to whatever podcast video, etc. that I had. So it's like, well, then I can just keep shoveling stuff in there and people can search for it.
Yeah, that's a really good idea though. I like it a lot. I'm going to keep that. I'm going to write that down and keep that in the back of my mind.
Yeah. So yeah, and if you need, I can got my webmaster I can introduce you to. But before I forget, you said that was carboncapturereport.net.
Okay. .net.
Yeah. Good. And for those listening, I'll have that in the show notes, so you don't have to do what I just did and double check the spelling and everything as well. So with that, Courtney, thanks again for coming on the show and sharing your story.
Yes, thank you so much for having me again.